Errors of the ignorant. Number 3. Try to find more things in common. This is a series based on the comments made by people who fail to understand the true nature of narcissists and the narcissistic dynamic. Whilst these comments may be well-intentioned, they are incorrect, perpetuate misunderstandings, and in many cases create false hope, dashed expectations, and perilous outcomes. Try to find more things in common. The instruction from the advisor is for the victim and the as yet unidentified narcissist to try to find more things in common. The confused victim has complained that once upon a time she and the narcissist once did so much together. They had so many shared interests, things in common, a mutual desire to experience certain things as a couple. Now that has gone away. The victim does not understand what has changed. Where once days were spent engaged in pursuits which both she and the narcissist enjoyed, talked about, and planned, now the situation is very different. He is either locked away in the study, his bolt hole, or he goes out who knows where, or sits in the same room with mobile phone or tablet glued to his hand, rarely speaking. The victim complains of feeling like the relationship has hit a rut, that it has somehow gone stale. Oh, how it has, but not for the reason the victim realizes, and is looking to understand how it can be invigorated with a return to those halcyon days of the golden period. The addictive qualities of that sensational time still infect the victim, who understandably hankers for the relationship highs associated with that dizzying and scintillating time. The victim turns for help, explaining the trough that the relationship appears to have fallen into, and listening to friend, family member, supposed relationship expert, or whoever it might be, as they listen and then offer this prescription in order to cure the ill that is currently being experienced. I have seen this suggestion made on the pages of an apparent experienced relationship advisor. The background that the writer detailed evidenced clearly the pattern that is recognizable, not to all though clearly, as that of the romantic, narcissistic dynamic. The situation was clear and evident, but the response that was described was as above. The victim was urged to find more things in common in order to rekindle the excitement, interest, and vibrancy of the early part of the relationship. Note how the suggestion is for there to be more things in common, which presupposes that there was anything in common to begin with. No, there was not. What you thought was a magnificent alignment of common interests was the effect of the mirroring that we narcissists engage in. We show you what you want, so you fall in love with it. We show you yourself, and thinking that it is someone else, you fall for it hook, line, and sinker. Our apparent enjoyment of fell walking was done to bind you to us. Our interest in Japanese cuisine was only done so you drew closer to us. Our enthusiasm for world cinema was driven by our unquenchable desire for your fuel. Since we saw the person that was going to fulfill our prime aims, then your interest became our interests. Whether it happened to be Morris dancing, medieval battle reenactments, or wine tasting, whatever you enjoyed doing, we claim to enjoy doing it as well. Yet this was all fabricated purely for the purposes of ensnaring you. We attended the Star Trek convention with you, we volunteered to pick up rubbish on the local beach, and also to read the works of Lord Byron to one another. It did not matter, because all we were concerned with was drinking up that wonderful positive fuel that you flowed with as a consequence of your enthusiasm, admiration, enjoyment, and love for our supposed mutuality of interests. The advice to try to find more in common is doubly dangerous. Firstly, it causes you to believe that you actually had something in common in the first place. You did not. We created an illusion for you to fall for, as I have described earlier. Secondly, it causes you to keep trying to win our favour. You spend your time thinking of common interests that you can engage in with us. Indeed, you start to consider those pursuits which may not really interest you, but you try to find something that will interest us and you because you want to save the relationship. You want the golden period back. You will go along with them because you are a good person who is trying to fix the slump in the relationship. Your advisor has led you down a dangerous path with such an instruction. This is because 1. You are misled into believing that the problem can be fixed by you trying harder. It cannot. But you do not know this, and the supposedly wise advice compounds the error. 2. You start to erode your sense of self as you actually move away from finding mutual interests to forcing yourself to do the things which we like. 3. You may well engage in behaviours which you do not really enjoy, but you go along with it because you think that if you can do something with us, then you will meet with success. You start to make the sacrifices. 4. You fail to realise that you are being devalued by a narcissist. You may be in the stranger zone at this juncture, and whilst it is dull and bewildering, it is not the out-and-out abuse of the classic devaluation. This is a time when you might make good your escape from our clutches if you had been properly advised. But instead, you remain and leave yourself exposed to worse behaviours and abuses, which will take their toll on you. 5. You continue to plug away, trying to please us, suggesting things together, perhaps turning to those interests we once both engaged in. You will be met with either a lack of interest, or your suggestions will irritate and then enrage us. By telling us what we ought to do together, you are trying to tell us what to do. At least, that is how it will appear from our perspective. Therefore, we will feel the need to assert our authority over you by the unleashing of our manipulations. Not only will this hurt you, it will leave you feeling more confused. You try to do something good and enjoyable. You followed the advice which you thought would work. Yet here you are, shouted at, left in silence, berated, and accused of being controlling and overbearing. You are miserable, perplexed, and no further forward. You keep trying to get it right, but you cannot, because you do not know what you are dealing with, and you are only going to irritate and annoy us all the more. 6. You become conned by the imposition of a respite period. Your suggestion of a bike ride through the countryside is met with a favourable response. You feel elated. It has worked. You have made a breakthrough. And you have a wonderful day with us. You had no breakthrough. Your suggestion was irrelevant. It just happened to coincide with us applying a respite period. The supposed victory will just bind you to us for longer. And then, when you suggest such an outing in 3 weeks' time, this time we refuse and pour scorn on you, you are left perplexed again. Once more, the ignorant have provided their advice, which is useless when applied to one of our kind, and all that follows is further misery for you